So today is June 20th. We are here at the zoning board meeting with Mary Ann and myself and Olivia and Jim.
Yeah, no matter what.
Joe and Nick. We are in the absence of Eric, who hopefully will be joining us later. Shall we, someone has to vote, or how do we do this again?
Yeah.
Someone has to ask, what's the word?
Recusal?
No,
What?
do we do minutes? Do you want to do minutes first for last month? Or you
Let's
want
see,
to
how do we
start?
have it on? I think we have minutes last on the agenda, but
Okay.
that's totally up to you. Since we're sort of delaying, if you want to do minutes first, that's fine. Yeah, it's really your call.
Joe, are you gonna? Oh, you're not doing it?
I'm the alternate.
So you're only involved if there's a need?
If there's a
Okay.
need, you guys are one short of five,
Okay.
2 people don't show up, whatever, and I
Okay.
alternate in that seat.
Okay.
Like right now, you have 3 people at the table who were at that meeting, right? So that's a quorum. If you all, that should be fine. I mean, that is fine.
So move to accept the meeting minutes from last meeting?
Yeah, what you use. A second.
Did you guys get a chance to look at them, by the way?
I did.
Yes, yep.
All right, good.
And I don't think there's any questions on them,
Do
so.
you have any questions with it?
No, they're pretty detailed. Yeah. Very good, thank you.
It was necessary. I can talk later about why.
Almost a transcription. So that's.
Well, did you guys vote?
I
No,
thought we didn't vote, okay.
no. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? So that's. So I think for the first case, which is 1704, we will put that on hold. And we'll start with 1705. And this is, oops. This is a variance application from, if I'm pronouncing this wrong, I'm sorry, Viscotti Development.
That's the first time anybody's got that right the first time.
It's an Italian thing, I get it. Someone talk to her. Yep, it's- So this is asking for us to allow placement of parking and drive within the side setbacks at 80 and 96 East Main Street, and it's a regional commercial district. So is it something we review it first, have any questions, and then?
I think in this case, I believe the applicant has a presentation if you want to invite them.
Okay.
I think, they can set up right here if that works for the board.
Absolutely, come on up.
Find it in the bottom of it.
don't worry about me.
All right, I'm just gonna block you right out then.
Okay.
All right. For the record, I am Austin Turner with Bowler Engineering. I joined this evening by John Scribner and Ethan Conley from Lascotti Development. They are the entity which has a controlling interest in the property and in the applicant before you. The documentation we've provided to the board, they have the ability to file applications, review those or discuss those as they pursue entitlements for the property. So what I'll do this evening, and you may be familiar with this. This particular property was the subject of some permitting a year and a half ago. It's taking a little bit of different form. Lascotti Development has an agreement to purchase the property and starting to engage with some prospective tenants who have expressed an interest in this location. What I'll do, if it's amendable to you, just kind of work you through what the program's going to look like, and then I'll kind of go through what we are perceiving in terms of hardship and then how that relates to what we're actually requesting.
Okay.
All right, I'll try to keep it fairly concise. The property itself, approximately almost 9 acres. It's on East Main Street. This particular location right here, this light would be the Lowe's and the Kohl's property across the street. You're probably familiar with the property. This area up front, kind of what's being shown as the limits of our development program, is essentially being used right now in a number of different uses, but largely disturbed, just parking. There's some commercial properties out there that are operating right now. As you get beyond that and you go in a southerly direction, topography changes very, very significantly. It's approximately 30 or 40 feet of relief. There's a stream out back, associated wetland systems. This area back here is essentially undevelopable because of the topographic changes and the wetland area and the stream back there. What that essentially does, and it's good and bad, it really requires us to get creative in terms of how we fit things on the property and also make use of areas that are pre-disturbed and haven't been established vegetation, which is good in that regard. We're making use of a property which has some previous development on it. But what that does do is it makes us kind of consolidate our footprint here. The program that we're looking at is a development of 3 prospective end users, or potentially 4 prospective end users. The first here would be a retail store, which is approximately 7,100 square feet. The middle tenant or prospective tenant we're working with is going to be a convenience store with a gas offering. And then on the southwest side of the property, we're looking at kind of a multi-tenant space. It might be a bank with a retail component. It may just be a retail component. But generally speaking, that particular space might be on the order of 3,500 to 4,000 square feet. This particular property has been through some permitting, so what we're showing on here in terms of improvements, this was taken to the 9.5 yard line. It actually received, not in this particular form, but a form that was very, very similar to this, had received site plan approval from the planning board maybe a year and a half ago, give or take. It had gone all the way through, with the exception of having permits signed off with DES on the alteration of terrain, with the underground storage facilities that would have been required for a gas offering. It went all the way home with DOT, but for the sign off on the permit. And this development program has evolved a little bit based on some new tenant interest. What's unique about the property in terms of, I'm going to walk through the hardship, and if the boards would like me to, I can kind of go through it step by step. I know there's the 5 criteria items, and I can kind of close with that, and I'll walk you through anecdotally what we're looking at here. So there is a requirement in the zoning ordinance which says that structures must, in this particular zone, and the side yard in particular, have to be separated from the side yard boundary by 50 feet. The zoning ordinance definition of a structure is what you and I would customarily expect to be a structure. That would be a house, a barn, a gazebo, something that's potentially occupiable, above grade, a home, for example, right? Also included in there, amongst 15 or 20 other uses that are similar to the conventional structure, is pavement and driveway. which is a little bit unique, not necessarily wrong, but unique, and it makes it a little bit challenging. One, because we're heavily encumbered by the topography and the wetlands. I mean, half to 3/4 of the property is essentially undevelopable. Second, you can actually subdivide this property legally and meet all of the underlying performance standards for legal lots that are developable, have the requisite land area, setbacks, shade factors, etc. But when you then apply that, you can't put anything, including pavement, within 50 feet of an internal or demising boundary on the internal part of the property. Essentially what you're doing is creating, not you as the town, but what that ordinance creates essentially is a 100-foot buffer. And as you extend that 100-foot buffer, it makes subdividable lots and legal lots, renders them almost undevelopable, especially when you incorporate the just physical encumbrance that the property presents. So with that in mind, the request that's before you is relief from the pavement setback from boundaries internal to the property. From 50 feet, what we're proposing here is approximately 3 feet. What's happening internally here, as I've mentioned in the subdivision context, these internal lines, this line here and that line, this L-shaped block here, are proposed property boundaries. They would represent legal lots, but the hardship then becomes these encumbrances presented by the existing site features, as well as all of a sudden you render a property which is already heavily restrained, further restricted, which then makes it undevelopable for a commercial use, which the zoning ordinance otherwise allows by right. To put that in context too, there are a number of different properties in town which have a similar condition, and I just took a quick tax map to give you some context. So these two pieces are currently the subject of this application. This is where we're talking here. This is Kohl's, that's Lowe's. And what you can see are the lot boundaries associated with those. So as you look up here, I'm using Kohl's and Lowe's as the example, but there are others. You can see that this internal property boundary, which creates two distinctly different lots, clearly has a condition where the driveways and the pavement and the parking would not meet that requisite setback, right? The setback doesn't just pertain to the side yard, it pertains to any of the yard. And in this instance, we're just seeking relief on the side yard. And as you look along, this corridor here, you're going to see it's fairly apparent that there are other developments along this, not to their fault, but that have this condition as well. There's some kind of historical context and precedent there for that. The reason being, I suspect, is because the town has probably recognized that applying in a literal sense by the definition of the ordinance, the 50-foot structure setback to pavement and driveways presents a development hardship for properties that were otherwise developable. In this case, what we're trying to accomplish here is to minimize curb cuts onto East Main Street. We're wholly aware of the traffic concerns in that road, having been through this process with DOT some time ago. So obviously, it makes sense to provide some connectivity to that existing signal. It also makes sense to restrict movements. That driveway would there be a right-in, right-out driveway, which DOT has kind of vetted. And we're going to go back through this process, provided and being presumptuous that this particular board feels it appropriate to grant us the relief so that we can proceed to the next step in our permitting process. But ultimately what this does, and I think the spirit and intent of that ordinance, is really to provide the ability to buffer between properties. In this instance, we're providing connectivity amongst all of these properties via access easements, which allow for vehicles to go back and forth without having to get back on the primary road network. I have to pinch them together because I have all of this land in the back that renders it undevelopable. I could take these programs and kind of spread them out and slide them around and meet that requirement and still provide legal subdivided lots. But because of everything we're dealing with back here, I have to kind of front load this and push it up against the road. The ordinance in town actually encourages development to be pushed closer to the road. So really, in terms of the spirit and intent, we're kind of meeting that requirement. That's kind of a product of what's happening back here in terms of those physical constraints. But ultimately, it's kind of meeting the spirit and intent in that regard. So what we're asking you for are for the allowance to encroach in those side yards and these kind of shared boundaries, if you will. We intend to landscape those and provide some buffering, which is really the spirit and intent of the ordinance. But where these are also commercial uses that are gonna share that boundary. I don't believe that one is detrimental to the other. In fact, they're complementary and probably enhance each other. And then when you couple that with the fact that we provide for interconnectivity and then we'll provide appropriate buffering between the properties, I think the spirit and intent of that ordinance would be met. I can get down kind of into the weeds, but I thought what might make sense initially is for me to open it up to any questions you might have. And then once we're through that process, I can kind of walk you through how we've met the criteria for each of the 5 criteria that we're tasked with meeting to support that request.
Okay, I just have a couple of questions. On the smaller, I guess this would be considered 3, you're speaking of?
You're looking over here?
Yep.
Yep.
How much of that is usable compared to the others? Because that seems to be your smallest.
Yep. It is, and it's done by design, so I'll put that, well, let's see. So this area here, it's gonna be kind of hard to see, but.
Yeah, because I'm like.
Want me to pull right
No,
up here?
it's-
Okay, I can put it on the table if you'd like.
Nope,
easier.
that's good.
This is the signal for Lowe's.
Okay.
This is where our new driveway would be.
And are you gonna have a light on your side?
Yeah, that's gonna be
You
part of a
will? That is-
comprehensive signal,
okay.
yeah, 4-way signal.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see, and it's this white area in here, flat area, that's what's been developed before.
Okay.
That's what we're proposing to stay on.
Mhm.
Our development program essentially goes up to this boundary right here, give or take. As you see this kind of heavy gray banding, that's the existing topography there. As you get to that point, you're dropping off substantially.
What about on the side?
Over here,
Yep.
we have a similar condition. It drops off very, very significantly
Mhm.
and then kind of flattens out. What this was created by in the past was some filling that was done as they were constructing state highways and dirt was moved here. And it created this topography in the back corner. That's over years and years and years ago. We have just from this spot here to against the property, we're looking at 20 feet of elevation change over approximately 50, maybe 75 feet. And then that stream that's just off Locust. This is the existing conditions plan, so I'll go to the aerial to help that in a second. But that wetland area is right out back. Now our development program is staying kind of on this previously developed flat spot here. So we've tried to condense things as tight as possible. So when you're looking at this and wondering why it's the smallest,
Mhm.
because that's the one that's the most encumbered.
How close is where you plan on building as far as drive and parking next to, this is a house right here?
Residential.
That's correct.
Yeah,
yep.
how close are you there?
Less than 25 or about 25.
So
About
the-
25 feet?
So from this nearest corner of that parking area to that existing property boundary is 25 feet. It's obviously further than that to the residence, but that's why when you saw.
Yeah, it's very close on this, that's why.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an unfortunate scale.
From that,
Yeah.
from that boundary line to the actual home,
Yeah,
it's maybe 25, so from the corner of that proposed
You're referring to
pavement
this corner here?
to the house is probably.
not of the
close-
building, of the pavement.
Pavement.
Okay, mm-hmm. Is only
Approximately
about
25 feet. I didn't measure it, so I'm just
Yeah.
I drove by and looked at it.
Yeah.
So it's about that, from the pavement, the corner
Yeah, it's
to the
very close.
structure of the house.
Are you gonna be putting up landscaping to separate
That
from
would.
that house to this
That's
development?
correct, and what, the landscaping plan and some of the site features here are gonna evolve, provided we get to the next step in the permitting process. What we had done previously, in the previous proposal, we had the convenience store and gas offering here. And then on the side, over in this area, and largely occupying a similar footprint, was the turnaround for the trucks, for the 18-wheelers that were using that detached diesel fueling facility. So this pad here was previously proposed as a diesel fueling facility.
Mhm.
We had provided screening, and we had done that through a combination of screen fencing, solid wood screen fencing, as well as landscaping on the backside of that fence to provide some visual breakup along that edge. And we're certainly amendable to that. We just haven't thought through the final of that yet.
So with that elevation change, this is one thing that I was thinking about, but for that home, their living room window would be looking straight at that
Right.
parking lot because of the elevation change, roughly 20 feet.
Sure, yep.
So that privacy barrier, I think would be important for that.
We're certainly open to that, and if it's a softer version of screening, and by softer I mean of the landscaping variety, so it doesn't feel like a hard surface, we're open to that, absolutely.
And, I'm sorry.
No, I just want to make sure I understood. So you've marked,
Yeah.
this is the
Yeah.
50-foot side
Right,
setback, right?
That's correct.
So it's really this piece of it is the only thing you're in violation on this side?
That's correct.
Okay.
And then on the other
So
side.
you
can see-
basically have one parking space, maybe two parking
Two.
spaces that you can't use because of the limitation, okay?
That's correct.
And on the other side, there's a house on the other side?
On this side here?
Is, yeah.
I don't believe that's gonna,
Is
that's
that,
not occupied,
that's
right?
not occupied, that's
No,
not
that-
staying, that's going?
That's intended to go away.
Okay, all right.
So the only boundary on that side
Yeah.
would be the river, stream, whatever in the natural
That's
via.
correct.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
we're actually, that particular location, because just of the existing constraints there,
Mhm.
we're further than 50 feet away for parking and driveways on that side of the property.
And I might have missed this. Is this a single, like, development project?
It would be a single, so it would be
So I
developed.
guess my question is, all of this probably could be join the lots?
The lots currently are two pieces.
Right,
We're
but if it was a single one lot, right?
You're asking
Most
what
of
we need
these
to
would,
relieve.
most of these zoning things would be going, you'd only have one that would be an issue, right? I'm just curious as to why
We
it's
have-
split up into 3 lots as opposed to a
Because
single lot.
ultimately, the potential exists that these particular tenants here
Yep.
will likely want to own
Oh, all
their
right,
own
that's
properties.
fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. I mean, I didn't know if it was like a danger or something like that, that.
No,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
it's that there are 2 properties today. We're ultimately proposing it to
It's
be.
not a rental thing,
3.
okay.
No, it's not a rental thing. It
Okay.
would be, that ultimately, there could potentially be 3 end users here or owning separate
Owning
properties.
separate, okay.
Yeah. And I did mention, I could move this thing back here and fit into this nice little triangle, except I'm 40 feet lower back there and I've got wetlands, and
Yeah.
that's kind of a tough thing to do, and I'd have a really hard time telling D, yes, I need to fill that when I can pull this thing a little closer to the road, so.
When you talk about, so the 3 feet in between,
On these side
Yeah.
boundaries, yeah.
and so
What's there?
it's just gonna be pavement,
So-
but you're gonna put landscaping in between?
There's gonna be medians.
So this is an island.
Yeah.
This white space right here that I'm tracing.
Yeah,
That would be a landscaped island. What I'm asking for, this is where the ordinance is kind of, it's a hard little thing to wrap your head around. It took me a little bit to figure it out. The parking in this driveway that would be associated with this facility
Mhm.
is this dashed line here.
Okay.
That's the setback. And then the parking in that driveway are within that setback, but there would be a landscape island between both of those users.
if you were to move that over,
Move
it's not
this-
there yet, if you
this
were to
over?
move that, yeah, move it over to your left, would that change your dotted line in the corner?
So
Your
you're-
2 parking spaces, if you moved it over?
Are you saying basically taking out that median, make you one large parking
Yeah.
lot, so you wouldn't be
So you
dealing
would-
with
yeah.
separated parking lot?
I looked at that. It's a
Mhm.
very good question, and I looked at that. What I'm trying to do here, because we have ultimately 3 users, regardless of property boundaries, 3 users. This being the convenience facility and the gas offering, they have the kind of the most vehicular movements that are happening there, right? In my design, in my simple little mind here, I want to try and keep these guys compartmentalized as much as I can, so that when you have vehicles that are utilizing the fueling facility or the diesel facility that would be out back, there's not that ocean of pavement that has people kind of playing demolition derby. I want to channelize traffic out there and still provide some landscaping buffer so that you don't feel like you're just in this big expanse up at Loudon or something.
So the diesel trucks would only be coming in that middle and not around the sides, they would have no other access?
So the way we envision the trucks using this facility, and part of what we found out during the last permitting process, that this was not the most popular location for the truck fueling facility because of the proximity to Morris Neff.
Right.
That then got shifted to the back, kind of in the operational hub where nobody's really gonna see it.
Mhm.
trucks would still use this driveway as they would in the previous approval, but they would come in this way,
Okay.
circulate out back, do their fueling, and then either come out this driveway here,
Mhm.
or then circulate through here and come out and head the other direction.
Okay. And how many retail stores are going to be on the left? Is there a limit?
In this area here?
Yeah,
That's currently,
is it one or is
it's
it?
currently proposed to be one
Just one.
end user, correct? We
Okay.
don't know who, there are a number of different tenants, but that's currently a one occupied building.
You mentioned, early on, you mentioned 3, possibly 4.
Right, so
What
this,
would that imply?
this would be a single user here. This would be a gas offering and convenience store. And then this building here, it might have multiple tenants. Right now, there are a couple of different tenants who have expressed an interest. It could be that you have tenant A and tenant B who share that space.
So that would be the multi.
Potentially, yeah.
So you have a lot of parking. I'm just curious, how did you determine how much parking is required for that?
Zoning.
It's a requirement?
Yeah, when we're designing this, I want to make sure I'm providing the requisite parking for
I
the
have a
ordinance.
question, the end building, you said it could be
This here?
potentially 2 users there.
This- okay, yeah.
How are you gonna figure out how many people you're gonna need to park there based on that square footage?
So what we've done, we look at the ordinance, and the ordinance tells us based on the uses,
Yeah.
how many parking spaces per square foot based on the use. Currently in here, what we've parked is to provide either for a full retail program in here,
Mhm.
or a combination of a bank and a retailer, but we're not sure. So just to be safe, and so I'm not coming back here and saying, hey guys, I missed it, I gotta come back and get more relief. I'm making sure I have the requisite parking for however that mix plays out.
Okay.
So it's 3,500 total square feet?
This particular space here?
Yes.
Yeah, and that might evolve a little bit depending upon specific tenant needs, but that's what we're in that ballpark right now.
Has there been any interaction or discussion with the people in the home right there on the right?
In this corner here, I believe, are they the landowner? They're the landowner of this particular property here.
Oh, they
yeah.
are?
Yeah.
Okay, so they've been involved to some degree in.
I imagine if they've engaged in a transaction, that they're probably in support of
They're
this.
aware of it, okay.
Yeah.
I just didn't want them to be blindsided by this.
Yeah.
So just going back to the square footage and the parking, so you have 3,800 square feet in the middle with only 15 parking spaces.
It's correct, it's a different classification for the convenience store.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
No, it's okay, it's.
No, because I was thinking
I
that you have
spent a lot of time
3,500 and you
looking
have
through
18 spaces. So it's a total different classification, which is.
Gas
under
offering
zoning.
convenience store, yeah.
Okay,
How the property is being used.
yeah. Okay, any more questions? Think we're good? Is there anybody from, oh, I'm sorry, do you have anything else?
No, unless there's any other questions from the board right now.
No, I think our concern was the people in the house, which I think you've rectified that, and that small, they're just a small lot. We have
And this
questions
you bring this,
on-
okay, yeah.
Yeah, do you have any, oh,
No.
You
Ask
sure?
it, see if there's people.
Yeah.
I can always ask afterwards.
I just want to make sure you're all set. Okay, is there anybody from the public that would like to speak on this? Absolutely.
Kathleen Dawson, floodplain plan board member. I just want a clarification. Did you say the house to the right is the owner of the property?
This particular property, right here in this corner,
Yes.
they are the current owner of this property.
I thought Tilton Auto Serve was the owner of that property.
I don't believe so.
Yeah, well, that's it's the same family.
Ethan, just for the record, identify yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ethan Conley, I'm with Wisconsin Development.
Because
Yeah, it's the same family.
that owns the house on the right, with the little garden on
Correct.
Morrison Avenue. Okay.
The
What about
upholstery place.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
What about the house behind it on the other side of Morrison?
On this side here,
Yeah.
I have not met those people, individuals personally.
Because there was great concern when we site planned this with the effect that commercial development, which has now grown substantially, because before it was just 2, will affect the residential neighborhood. There On Grant Street, that residential neighborhood, because we didn't have foresight, was affected tremendously by the Coles and Lowe's development. So I would caution you to give a variance on that western side for setbacks and think about the effect it will have on that neighborhood with light, with sound, with smells.
It's a good point, one that, you know, I'm sensitive to as well. Just to put that into context, because I don't know that this board had how involved you were with the prior iteration of this?
We were all new.
Okay, so just for context, and it's an important point, I want to just kind of pull that thread a little bit. Where we have this bank, and generally that spot, it was two users. It was a retailer and a convenience store and gas offering. And then on this part of the property, which didn't have that boundary in between it, was a 24-hour diesel fueling operation for 18-wheelers.
It was already there, or that
No,
was
that was proposed, and what was approved by the planning board. This particular would not be proposed to have a 24-hour operating
Right.
timeframe, nor would we expect that we'd have diesel trucks navigating through that spot and fueling.
What about the middle piece? Would that be 24 hours?
That's what they're currently proposing to, which is part of the sensitivity we had when we looked at this and we were redeveloping this program. We were really, because we got a lot of feedback at the planning board about the location of that diesel fueling facility being closest to Morrison Avenue and potentially being the highest generator of noise or sound or activity, especially at night when truckers are coming off 93. We've moved it interior to the property and kind of behind everything to try and keep it away from Morrison Avenue.
Were the people on Morris Avenue notified, Dari?
Yeah, I mean, all butters were notified.
Can I ask just a question? So, is that legal? We're still learning all the rules, all right? So, according to this map, the property on the other side would not be affected. The 50-foot setback would be valid. Is that still a concern?
Well, it's still a
What's your
concern, as I
concern as far as
mentioned,
that goes?
Grant Street, Lowe's complied with all the setbacks, but the lights, we had to go back and have them raise fences and whatnot because there was noise and that sort of thing. When we looked at this as a planning board, we were very concerned about the effect on the two residential buildings. Auto Serve may own one, but I still believe it's a residential building, so he may have a tenant in there. And how that was going to affect them. So, unfortunately, in the town of Tilton, we didn't create buffer zones between residential development and commercial development. So,
I think
we should just be very cognizant of the impact of commercial development up against our residential neighborhoods.
to that point, we're absolutely willing to work with the town planning board and our neighbors for that matter in establishing an appropriate screening if so desired.
I think that makes a good point, along with the lighting, because that piece of property, the development property, will be higher than the property that is behind the one that is on Main Street. So, which means any light from that, it's gonna be possibly challenging to block it from the residents that's lower. So that would be something I think that needs to be considered. Lot lighting, any type of building lighting to keep it as much away from the residents as possible, reasonably.
And what we're going to do there, we would have the forward throw lighting fully cut off and shielded with the zero cutoff on the horizon, which means that you're not getting upflow and that kind of the halo effect that some lighting can have. Others would refer to that as kind of dark sky. So that's what our lighting would propose. And then on top of that, with the screening, if we did a fence or vegetation, we would have it at a certain height where it kind of provides that buffering and cutoff. So as you're looking up, you're getting that line of sight cutoff, which is what we have worked with in the past. I know when I was here previously on the prior version of this, we had proposed arborvitae plantings, which the planning board did not like very much, right? So we're willing, and I say that in jest, but we're willing to work, whatever is appropriate there, so.
Can I ask a question? So you have not gone to the planning board with this. You're looking for your variances before you go there.
Correct.
once you go to the planning board, the things like lighting would be addressed there, right? So we just have to deal with the variance.
Right.
Correct? And we don't have to really, we assume that the planning board will take care of anything like that, correct?
Yes, to her.
Well,
Well,
that's
she
kind
said she was on the planning board, is there somebody else?
Kind of a
that's on-
Barry question.
Or Barry, I'm looking at both of you, the only people I know that might know the answer.
Well, the planning board does take care of those things.
Yeah.
but I don't know.
All right.
Just another comment, I just, even though the planning board will take care of looking at lighting,
Okay.
Take care of
you know,
it.
downcast
Okay.
lighting, and some type of buffer.
Okay.
It's really hard
Oh,
to protect
okay.
those residential districts when we reduce that setback.
Is,
The commercial to commercial is not so important to me, just my opinion, as it is commercial to residential.
right.
So so it's 50 feet,
The side
Is
setback
the
in this zone is
requirement.
50 feet, correct?
and what would it be to the corner of this parking? I can't read
It's
this.
25,
Only
25 feet
25
to the
feet.
boundary.
right.
So what would happen if you had to keep this 50 feet? How much of an impact would it be to move over to cut your median strip, your island? What is,
Referring to this median here, correct?
Mhm.
Yeah.
so you'd be asking for 25 feet from the corner of this parking space to your dotted line?
That's correct. In fact, in our application, we actually identified two separate requests. One for the internal here, approximately 3
Mhm.
feet, and then one for this, because it was different. So we
Right.
had separate requests there.
But you have enough over here, and you
Yeah.
have plenty over here.
Yeah.
Just those two parking spaces,
And I
and
think-
that little piece.
I think just if I
Mhm.
know they're talking about what happens if this whole thing goes this way,
Mhm.
right?
I don't want you to fall off.
No, and
Okay.
there's that. And then there's also what's not shown on here, coming off of the resource area.
Mhm.
There's a 75-foot buffer,
Do you have a
which
buffer?
we're allowed a certain encroachment in, which cuts in here a little bit. But that was a large tangled web we did with DES when we were permitting this with the alteration terrain. We have not adjusted this footprint because I've asked that nobody ever make me do that again. And that's why that stayed the same. So I think if I push that in there, all of a sudden,
It opens a little bit.
yeah, and we did a lot of untangling to get that there because it's not apparent in 2 dimensions what's happening here, but there's a lot of stuff going on in
Right.
that corner.
Any other questions or comments? Absolutely.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Just a question, could you move the piece back a little bit?
When you say piece, you're referring to this one here? I'm kind of at the limit of that topographic break. All of a sudden, this thing slides backwards, and I'm jumping off a 12, 15-foot cliff, so.
And where is
You don't
that,
have 20
on this
feet?
one? Hold on. Because that was my next, why can't you move it backwards or shorten your spaces or?
So, that,
Mhm.
there might be some very, very limited refinement. To your point earlier, perhaps I could thin down that median a little bit, maybe I gain a foot or two there.
Yeah.
What I'm sensitive to too is I don't want to push the building into the setback.
Okay.
So I'm absolutely amendable to doing that. My request in front of the board is to reduce that setback to 3 feet, which means that this edge here can't go
Yeah.
any closer than 3 feet to that boundary. So as long as I don't get any closer to 3 feet, I'm willing to kind of nudge this way to maximize
Yeah.
this separation. And if I have any ability to kind of kick it back at an angle a little bit, when I ask for 25 feet, I'm suggesting that's the closest I would be. But in reality, I'll probably get a little further away once I get towards, complete and full design, and I've had an opportunity. Like one thing that I see here, I have a bit of a landscape island there.
Mhm.
I can kind of nip and tuck. What I don't want to do is box myself in too tightly where all of a sudden I tell you it's 25 feet. And I've done as much nipping and tucking as I can, and I'm finding myself at 24 and a half. So,
Because I'll come out with a measuring tape.
and I've seen people do it, so, that's why I'm out. Because
Right.
this design has a little bit of evolution to happen based on tenant needs.
Mhm.
And I'm not trying to build in too much flexibility, and I'm not certainly not being
Right.
piggish, so to speak. But I want to make sure that I don't want to do this again once we all come to some form of understanding. So.
Okay, so Lee, regarding that corner, this is going to be the closest it will ever be 25 feet, meaning, but you will try to do everything you can to move it away to maintain that as much as possible, that 50 foot is what you're going for, but you fully realize you may be within 20 or 25 feet or more.
Yeah, it could be 27 feet.
Right, okay.
Yes, sir, that's my goal.
Okay.
Any more comments?
I'm good, thank
You're
you.
good? You sure? Okay. All right, think you all set?
I'm good.
You have more?
No.
Nope.
I have the app, would you like me to go through the hardship argument, or?
Absolutely.
Okay. And I don't know if you want me to read it verbatim, it's long and time consuming, but I can summarize it for us. I know as part of the procedural item here, we have to at least have discussed, and the board has to, without overstepping my bounds, just help me understand the process. I'm customarily, the board will review each of the individual hardship criteria points, make a motion on each of them, decide how you feel about them, and then ultimately go through. So,
Generally how we do that.
We have to go through each one.
But you don't make a motion on each one.
We don't make a motion on it.
my understanding is that the board has to vote individually on each particular point of criteria here for variances by New Hampshire state law.
Is that something new?
No, it's just that they've had, because if one doesn't pass, then the whole thing doesn't pass.
You have that RSA?
It's, I mean, that's not my understanding. The issue, and I'll try and be real quick with this. If you just vote one by one, you could have a case where an application passes, but if you went around and you asked every single zoning board member, do you feel this satisfies all 5 criteria? It's possible that each member would say no, because of the way the numbers can play out. So the way I advise, or the way we do it, and it seems logical, is that you vote at the end. That way, if it comes out 3 members say yes, let's say, and 2 members say no, you know that those 3 members who said yes are good on all 5 of the variance criteria. And then in fact, there are 3 members that felt that the variance, that the application met.
If, I customarily have seen zoning boards vote on 18 little criteria,
Okay.
but ultimately, I'll defer to.
We could do both, so that, you know, I think in order to just be on the safe side, we could do both. The zoning board, I suppose, could vote individually and do a vote at the end. And I would propose that it's simply, you know, out of sort of courtesy to the applicant who's requesting that.
Okay.
And it feels that his, you know, his application would be properly approved that way. I think that's an okay
So
way
to
go.
vote individually on each 5?
On each of the
one to 5
criteria.
And then I think, and then to wrap that into one whole vote, provided that all of these pass that process, then a collective.
It's fine.
I want to do
On that?
procedurally
Okay.
correct, that's all,
Mhm.
whatever one that takes.
Yeah.
So we generally have discussion,
Or you do it
individual
different.
discussion.
You have to do it every time.
Well, that was, yeah.
Right.
Remember that.
I don't
No?
think you do. Yeah.
Because he's
I mean,
asking for
There,
this.
there is something that I've seen recently, which is a recently proposed statute along those lines. But discussions I've had in the past, you know, the past few years have been that you should not vote individually, because it could lead, again, to an erroneous approval. So I suggest we do that on this case only. And then I can, you know, maybe I can ask, you know, follow with
You
Mr.
find
Turner and other
an
folks.
RSA on that?
Don't find anything that says.
Do you know the RSA on
I
that?
don't offhand, I just, every time I've been in front of a zoning board.
You're
it's
saying it's new.
individual.
There's something the town clerk put on my desk the other day, new legislation, but I went actually to the, you know, the RSAs are online, just to see if it had made it there yet, and it was not, it was still the same. So, yeah, I would love to have a discussion with you about that tomorrow morning or something.
Sure.
But I think for tonight, if we go that route, I think we're safe.
And just for this case, and this case only until we.
Sure, unless you want to do it for, I mean, the other 2 are special exceptions, so I guess it's your, yeah. Do it for this case tonight, and then
Discuss it.
follow up, yeah.
Okay, all right.
So So would it be the board's preference then on these individual criteria points? I'll just tell you what the criteria is. I'll summarize it in the context of the testimony that I've given this evening, and then, okay. The first one says granting the variance would not be contrary to the public interest because, and in the items that we talked about, it generally meets the spirit and intent of the ordinance, and in terms of the hardship that I discussed, both in terms of the physical constraints out here, as well as what we're doing internally, and that these are complementary uses and allowed right in the zoning, otherwise with the exception of pavement encroaching into those setbacks as we previously discussed. It's our opinion that it's not contrary to the public interest. If the variance were granted, the spirit of the ordinance would be observed. In that instance, as you read the definition of a structure, it's heavily tailored towards what we would conventionally consider a structure, as I mentioned previously, the houses, the barns. Pavement and driveways is in there. Still, in the spirit of the ordinance, I would suggest that we're providing a buffer in between properties, but these are complementary to each other. And as we had discussed before, kind of the spirit of the ordinance kind of put like development next to like development with appropriate screening between dissimilar uses. So I think the spirit of the ordinance has been observed. Granting the variance would do substantial justice because in this instance it allows for development of this particular site, which is allowed by right, as I've mentioned. These particular programs meet the underlying performance standards, but for that side yard setback. And then given the existing physical constraints on the property, I think substantial justice would be done. If the variance were granted, the values of surrounding properties would not be diminished. In this instance, this particular corridor is largely commercial development. You have Lowe's and Kohl's along opposite of us. There's a lot of commercial development on the corridor. In this instance, there are some scattered residential mixed, but they're zoned mixed-use zone. So it's kind of a zoning versus use discussion, but ultimately the seller is one of the direct abutters. I suggested earlier that they're probably not in opposition to this. And then in this instance over here, for the property that's just on the south side of Morrison Avenue, we're not proposing an encroachment into that buffer, but we are proposing that there would be a form of screening or landscaping or other. And then unnecessary hardship goes back to what we had talked about really in terms of substantial justice being done. Certainly I could move these programs backwards. I'd be filling streams and wetlands, and I'd be putting these things tiered over 40 feet of topography to meet that requirement. I'd suggest that that's a pretty significant hardship, one that was not imposed by the applicant necessarily, but is a product of the constraints of the property as they present themselves physically. And I can dive down here as deep as you'd like me to go, but I think we've kind of talked about these points at length.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I have one more issue. Okay. So the variances were granted the value of the surrounding property, so it is largely commercial, mixed use, but largely commercial to those places.
Right.
So, I guess my question is that the properties, like the direct abutter that owns it probably is not big, but the one behind it, do we feel that that's gonna be an issue? Would that deter or reduce the residential value of their home? I do not know that house, I did not go down that road, so I have no idea. That would be the only one that I was.
Well, that's why they did ask you if they were notified.
Yeah,
That
okay.
If they had an
if
issue,
they had an
would
issue,
be
they'd be.
Okay, okay,
You know,
okay,
I don't think we should make decisions on anybody else's spot.
Right,
okay.
right. So we're gonna close the floor to any discussions or questions and just talk amongst ourselves.
Yep. So none of the others sure.
No,
Okay.
no. And that was my concern as well. I'd like to see some type of trees, fencing along here. The issue is the setback. But since the abutter is the owner of the property,
Yeah, that 25 feet, that seems to be,
it was an issue at first, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And then.
and I think, to me, I think it still is, to me.
Yeah,
And they've already addressed it with putting up screening, putting up.
Right.
And I think that's a good direction, because the people that own that property and are selling this property for the development won't always own that property.
Right.
So, I think that's something that they've addressed, and I think, to me, that was a concern, and I think they've handled that well.
And the other concern is if this is gonna be for a gas pump. Can I ask a question, even though is this just gonna be diesel, or is this gonna be like a gas station for other people, or is
Gas
this?
station in the front.
That's
This is the
correct.
gas
This
station.
is the gas
This
station?
is the diesel.
These
The
particular,
diesel's all the way in the back.
these particular fuel offerings here would be more of the conventional providing for regular
Right.
passenger vehicles. The pumps that are out back or
Are for diesel.
would be diesel trucks.
For large trucks?
They would be for larger vehicles, correct.
Is there overnight parking for 18-wheelers to be parked there and running their reefer units and
No, it's
running
not,
their?
it's not
It's
proposed
not
here.
for that?
If they do that, they're not supposed to.
Okay, all right. I'm just thinking noise for, you know, when you come and you drop your gasoline or diesel off at 3 o'clock in the morning, I wouldn't want that. You know, and, yeah, and hearing that,
Absolutely right.
you know, I don't care what tree or fence you have, you can still hear it. And in the middle of the night, when they need to be warm in their drive, Best Buys, how are they gonna be staying? So, okay.
Give my card. Give it to you last
So the other thing that
Yeah.
I heard was that they were gonna minimize the encroachment into the 25 foot setback on the side of Morrison Avenue.
But that's
So-
not gonna affect this one down here, this house down here, only gonna affect up here.
Right, but that was one of the things that they brought up, is that they would move this property down a bit
Probably based on
to
the plan.
improve, to minimize the encroachment on the side setback, right? Didn't I hear that?
Yeah.
And it's not gonna be as 25 feet, it's or less than.
This
is what we're saying.
plan, what you're looking at there would be worst case scenario.
Right,
They're trying to, they will try to move it back
Right.
as much as they can with whatever changes they can make, but that would be worst case scenario.
Does that have to be included in the response?
we just would have to say no less than 25 feet.
That's consistent with what we wrote in the application.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah,
Application.
it's already
First
documented.
25.
Okay.
So if we grant what they're requesting, it's documented,
It's
so
no-
we wouldn't have to add it.
So, are there, I mean,
No planning board will visit that, so.
I'm sure, yeah. So there's really no other issues with the first and the second lot? It's really just this one?
Yeah, it's just that one.
Yep.
The only thing I don't think I saw in writing was a privacy buffer. It was stated that they will attempt to do that and
Oh, we have,
provide that, but I
We
don't
would
think.
have to add that.
we have to add
That
that.
would be one thing I think I would like to add,
Yeah.
some form of appropriate privacy buffer. It wasn't written there, that's the only thing I would like to.
So do we have
In
to
lighting.
define the privacy buffer, or is that the planning board
I think the planning board,
would define what what the privacy buffer would be? We just have to say that it has to be in.
they will make sure that they'll buffer.
And
So
lighting.
you have
Am I right,
fairly
Kathy?
broad leeway.
Kathy?
You,
You guys will make sure that buffer will be there, right?
No, what,
I'm sorry.
Here.
She can't speak for the
Yeah.
planning
well,
board.
she can, but
Sorry.
I mean, I'm the one
No.
paid to do that. This is my thought.
Yeah.
That you have broad leeway largely in what you set for conditions. You can set a condition that requires screening. I mean, after all, if that, if you wouldn't be comfortable granting the variance if there were no screening, but
Right.
you would be comfortable granting the variance if there were screening, you could, and you can make that, I suppose, as specific as you like, and you do have knowledge that the planning board is indeed gonna address it.
Okay.
I can pretty much guarantee you, knowing this planning board, that if you didn't put a condition in, you could probably still rest assured that the planning board is gonna go into it fairly in depth.
Okay.
In depth, okay.
I don't think we need to be specific.
Just
But
ask
just-
for, I don't think so
It has to be
either.
appropriate screening.
Right.
For.
So what about, and I understand this, the lighting. You know, we don't want it to be lit up like Fenway Park and the poor people can't sleep, so. And you had mentioned that there's a height difference, and I didn't even go down that side street. I came into this lot, and
Well,
this,
the land right there slopes down.
Yeah.
Whereas the development land is a plateau and
Right.
stays relatively flat. So there, it stands to reason the home on the south side of Morrison Avenue is going to be low. But they've already addressed that with the lighting plan.
and that would be
Handle
for
that.
the planning board again to,
Yeah.
I think, in my mind, just a screening to handle that, to me, would be enough.
yeah, okay. With no particular height involved,
Yeah.
that again would be part of the planning board. Okay. So, do you want to make a motion? Oh,
So
wait, what?
We
No.
talked about voting on each individual
Right.
and then voting on the collective.
Okay. Okay, so let's vote on granting the variance on section 1.
Or that it meets
Mhm.
criteria.
There, that's in there.
You could maybe say like something like, I move, to determine that the application meets the public interest criterion. Might be a quick way of doing it, a suggestion.
I move that the proposal is not contrary to the public interest.
Second that.
And on 2,
On all
oh yeah, sorry, I just jump ahead, we're all good. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye, opposed? And on number 2, motion.
A motion that the variance is in the spirit of the ordinance.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed?
A motion that the third criteria, motion that the variance, if granted, would not, or would sustain justice.
And second? Would you think?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And all opposed? And number 4?
I propose that, condition number 4, that the values would not be diminished by this, the granting of this variance.
I think this is where we would put our restrictions in here.
You could, or
would you
since I think you
try?
guys decided to take a vote at the end on the whole, sort of
Okay,
the way we
do it then.
typically do, you could do it there
Okay,
also, it's
all
up
right.
to you.
Yeah.
And second?
Maybe you can do it.
Second.
No, because I'm going to abstain.
Okay. So this is 4. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I abstain.
And all opposed?
I'm just abstaining.
Okay.
And condition number 5,
hardship. Yeah. I make a motion that that there is no resulting hardship,
And second?
Wait,
Hang on.
right?
Did-
Isn't that
did-
it?
so you're saying to deny it?
No.
So there
Did I
is
say
a
it wrong?
hardship?
No.
I wrote it any unnecessary number. So yes, there's a
If we-
Okay.
hardship.
So-
I'm reading it, but.
So how about you're voting to determine that it meets the hardship criteria?
Thank you.
Okay.
Meets the hardship criteria.
And second? And second? I second the motion.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
And all opposed?
So based on what I hear you guys saying, I'm sorry,
Nope, go ahead.
okay, maybe a motion to approve CBA case 17, what is it, 05?
Yep.
With the condition, and I'll let you take it from there. Exact wording.
Motion to approve the zoning board case 1705 with a condition that there is an appropriate barrier or buffer, not buffer, but an appropriate screening between the residents on the east,
Lost number
West.
three.
the west side, and lot 3.
Lot number 3,
Yep.
yep. Which will be discussed at the planning board, so.
I second it.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And all opposed? That's
Thank you very much, appreciate that.
best of luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think that's why we do it all at once.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
I
don't have a firm, there's a lot of moving parts. I wish I knew.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Go ahead.
So Eric Pyre's not here yet. I'm gonna check on Eric real quick. You guys wanna?
Oh, she's not here.
Joe?
Is this Gap?
Catherine's beside me.
Oh, she owns this one over here. Oh,
Catherine's
okay.
like this, she owns. This is Catherine Andor, my brother John.
Next
This
door.
one is the golf course, Mr. Shaley.
Oh, I'm sitting there going, oh my God, is this her?
Catherine's
Oh,
house.
No,
Catherine's
that's-
house
oh,
sits
okay.
right there, no.
She's up here, next
Yeah,
to,
she's-
there's like a
okay.
rock wall.
Yeah.
And who's this?
Mr. Shaley.
Are you gonna do that one now?
Yeah.
All right,
Did you hear from her?
No, his phone went right to voicemail, so I sent him a text and we'll see. I'll be right back.
Oh, Dory has them over there?
What do you need? Sorry?
Yeah, where's the-
Another copy of
have
the
a-
case?
Yeah. I sure. Yeah, who else? Anyone else?
No, I didn't get that one yet. Thank you so much.
Really?
Okay, so now we're gonna be carrying case 17 through 6. And it's Kogelman Real Estate, which is it representing my box of Central New Hampshire, or is this one entity?
She said that.
Two separate entities, okay. And do we have someone here from Kogelman's and someone here from my box?
Yes. West of Copeland.
And you are the real estate agent for the property?
No, I'm the owner of both businesses.
Okay. And you are?
My name is Chris Gaeta, and I'm a certified wetland scientist and soil scientist with Fieldstone Land Consultants, representing Mr. Coleman.
Okay. Well, welcome, gentlemen. Okay, well, I don't know who would like to start. Soon you, okay?
So I don't know if you're all familiar with the location of the property, sounds like it. Right now it's an existing gravel parking area, currently utilized for snow storage in the wintertime as its primary use right now. It's been vacant and undeveloped for quite some time. So the proposal really is just to improve this parking area, utilize the same existing entranceway and pave it, and have these My Box storage facility here, the 120 spaces lined up in this configuration, or something very similar to that. Essentially, My Box is, well, I don't know if you're familiar with the My Box, a truck-mounted box that they deposit on someone's site and then remove them. It's kind of like a mobile storage unit.
Are you gonna stack them?
Yeah, that was just a.
The proposal is there's a potential to stack 2 high maximum, I believe, is the limit.
On all 120, you have that?
Yes.
Okay.
A question,
Sure.
how does the person get to the top to get the storage? Or you take
They
it
would,
down?
yeah, if someone wanted to get, if their stuff was being, correct me if I'm wrong, Wes, but if someone, like say, called up and said, hey, I want to get my stuff, they have equipment on site to move that basically to a central location or whatever, if it were on top, and make it accessible to them.
It says a crushed stone parking area, you said pave?
I think right now it's stone.
It's
stone.
The proposal is to pave?
Yes.
Okay, because this conceptual plan says crushed stone parking area that I have here.
There was, I think, some minor revisions from the initial one.
Oh,
Essentially, a stone parking lot, gravel stone parking lot. A lot of times folks think that, you know, if it's gravel, it's gonna be pervious and rainwater is gonna sink into it. It really doesn't. All the calculations basically consider that as impervious surface. So we're really not changing anything besides, actually, a lot of times it helps because you're not gonna have runoff in this situation. Most of this is flat anyway, so you're not gonna have a lot of energy, but once it's paved, you can maintain it. You're not gonna have erosion off of that
Where
surface.
is the water gonna run from that parking lot?
Basically down along the sides here, there's the proposal has, let me just, it's the right sheet here. Swales and a treatment infiltration basin in the back here. So basically it's crowned in the center, and it's
Right.
gonna run off to the sides through these treatment swales on each side with stone check dams down to infiltration basin in the back here.
Sorry, can you explain swales to me?
Yeah, it's just a ditch, basically.
Okay.
They're directing the water.
That was easy, got it.
Yeah.
Such a nice
It's
word.
by design, so go that way.
Right, so,
It's like a leaching
Yeah.
field.
right, so these are not, you know, they're not paved or anything, it's basically just vegetated, so as the water flows down here, it's allowed to infiltrate as much as it can. Normal storm events, a lot of that's gonna basically percolate into the ground long before it gets to this basin. Heavy storm events, you know, it may make it all the way down here and then infiltrate soil. So this area here, when I delineated the wetlands here, a lot of this area has been, I don't know exactly what the utilization was before. There's been some disturbance, you know, along the edges and some fill material. Essentially, the plan is to just really reclaim and utilize the existing area. There's very little expansion of that existing parking area that you see now with the berm around it for the snow area. The limit of clearing is pretty much just this dark line right here. There's one little section that's going to get cleared, and then this is actually has been logged off already down in here. So it's pretty minimal clearing other than what's already there, and the rest is going to just remain vegetated.
So, just a question, so you have a wetlands issue, did you see any concerns with the stormwater management?
Nope.
How far is that from that?
Yeah, that's, so this plan is 40 scale. Well, here's the buffer here, which is a 20-foot wetlands buffer. So the edge of that, this dark line here is kind of a berm. So this is basically just a big, like a pond, a ditch area, a low spot. And then that fills up, lets it infiltrate. In extreme events, it would basically run out through this riprap swale and then discharge through this spillway, you know, out into upland soils. So there's between where that discharge point is and the wetlands, it's about 20, 40, 45 feet or so through a forested. Basically, this is a forested area, fairly dense, young growth. Most of it's about 15 to 20 years old, pretty thick. So yeah, no, and these wetlands are all forested wetlands too. So they actually, you know, there's a culvert right here which feeds this. There's only one side that was delineated. We didn't bother with the other side because it's, you know, almost off the property here. So this culvert discharges here and runs through here, and this is all forested wetlands right up to the railroad. It's pretty simple as far as we are proposing. There are several different sizes of my boxes. 20 feet, I believe, is the largest one. And they go down to 16 and 8 by 8. Yeah. So it's a variety of sizes in here. Primarily, probably 20 is probably the most common, or 16. There's a proposal for a small office building, 12 by 32, like a temporary building there for a manager who's ever operating the facilities. We have an area here designated as a potential septic location for bathroom in there. It would be, you know, for maybe 1 or 2 employees. It'd be, you know, extremely minimal design.
You say it's going to be a temporary structure, or like a trailer?
I believe right now it's an office building trailer, so it's
Right.
it's like a modular
Yeah.
trailer. Yeah.
Okay.
So you're gonna actually build a leaching field and everything there, or you just doing a porta potty?
Well, the plan right now is to have, if someone's here all the time, is to have a leaching field in there. Depending on specific health regulations and the time that gets utilized, there might be a little variability in there on what's you know really necessary. If someone's here, you know, on the road all the time and they're not, you know, there full time, it may not be necessary, but that's something that we certainly have the provision for it. If it turns out that that's required. That's pretty much it. You know, the roadway, there's good sight distance here, both ways. It meets all the state sight distance requirements.
How wide is the entryway gonna be?
It is gonna be, let's see, what's it say here?
Basically the way it looks right now? Or
Yeah,
you
it's a
make it wider?
little bit wider, just kind
Yeah.
of cleaned up on the edges here.
Yeah.
That's about, on scale. It's 22. There's gonna be some, you know, state entranceway requirements, so it's gonna meet those, whatever that, looks like about 22, 24, sorry.
So is it gonna be manned or not? I'm confused because
Yep.
you asked it, how does somebody get to their stop, right?
Well, they'll call.
They'll call.
If their units are on the bottom, they won't have to call. If
Is
their
that
units
true?
are on top, they'll have to call, and somebody is gonna have to take that unit off. They'll probably have a staging area. Am I correct?
Did you want to
Put the
speak
box
to that,
down.
Wes?
Yeah,
You'll go
can you
through
actually
this.
access?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a forklift on site, and then I bring it to the spot
Yeah.
right in front, and it's available to them, and then we put it back.
So
And then a
somebody
lot of
will have
times,
to be
sometimes-
there.
I'm sorry.
Somebody will have to be there.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And there's gonna be certain hours that people can access this? Or is this a 24-hour?
Good question. Is we're open 9 to 5. So.
Okay.
So that is likely gonna be not temporary, you're pretty much like a permanent.
Right, right, that's what it sounds like. So if that's the case, then we would certainly have a septic system installed there.
And permanent size-wise, is this, I assume it's zoned for having a building?
Oh, sure, yeah,
Okay,
yeah. And this is before planning board
Board
next week,
anyways.
yeah, yeah.
okay.
So
I know I kind of opened the can of worms by, I'm starting off with sort of an environmental type question about paving versus crushed stone, but I
Right.
should, yeah, it's definitely going before planning. Sorry.
But all we're basically looking at is the approval or not of having multiple
This type of facility.
containers
Storage.
stored at one site, trailers stacked, or, okay, that's all we're really talking about.
Right, it's for the use, right, the use is allowed by right in the zone by special exception. So as long as we meet all the criteria, which I believe that we do, that we can go through here shortly. We don't have to vote on every one.
So is storage, is it?
But it's not a storage facility, is it? Because it's not
It's
permanent
trailers.
structure.
Trailers.
It's, right, they're mobile, it's basically a parking lot with these mobile storage units stored there.
There's
you ever
something
see
that
a
was
high box?
voted on about the trailers.
Yes, actually,
Yeah.
when I drove into it, I did
Yeah.
see
That's
that.
okay.
Trailer.
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's like
You see
pods.
to that?
Yeah.
They look like
It's
pods.
just what
Same
they
thing
are.
pod.
Like,
They're
like we had at the house.
They're not shipping containers.
Right.
Yeah, so, I mean, they're not.
And you just use a forklift to pick them up?
Yeah, so we have a special
A
truck,
20-foot.
patent truck that usually if it's on one row, we can pick it up, but then we have a forklift that'll grab. You can actually go 3 high, but I would avoid that outside, just in case of wind. So 2 high is very safe.
And it just picks them up, moves them.
Yeah,
up,
so there's
puts them down.
slots right in the bottom, and you stick your forklift right in, you just pull it off and bring it to where you want.
If they're 20 feet long, tiny forklift?
It's a big fork.
Okay.
Where are we gonna keep the forklift? Do we have like a
Is it a
specific space for that? Is that going
We don't,
staging area?
yeah, I mean, it's probably gonna be,
Somewhere on the
anywhere
pavement?
Yeah,
near the,
right.
yeah, behind the
Same with the
truck.
truck, so
Yeah.
we have 1 truck right now, so we park it in between.
So if you don't mind,
You gonna have any
Derek was gonna
lighting in
answer
here?
a question
I'm
for me,
sorry.
but I think he was waiting.
He's so
Will
patient.
there be any lighting? Will
I'm
there
sorry.
be any lighting?
There is some proposed lighting here, around the edges.
Okay.
There's a little bit of variability there depending on how much we light. I mean, there would definitely be some lighting near the office space and the type, how the operation works. As you asked, if someone comes and wants to basically look at their stuff, is it something where we want to light the whole parking lot or just light a processing area, if you will, more well than all of it. So there is proposed lighting on the plan. There's, along the edges here, down lighting.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That would be determine how much lighting would be the planning board, I believe.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, okay.
Okay, yeah, Chairman, Ms. Princiotta asked a question about it. She said, wasn't there something recently voted on this? So I was just gonna answer that. There was on the charter permitted uses up until this year, or special exception was required, and it simply said storage trailers, containers. Now it says permanent storage trailers, containers, and a section was added elsewhere in the zoning ordinance that says temporary storage trailers and containers can be permitted just without coming to the zoning board, just by going to visit the code enforcement officer and seeking approval through him, and then he check to make sure it's okay. So that's what that change was about. And this, so that requirement that special exceptions are required for storage trailers and containers. And I think a lot of people look at that and say, well, wait a minute, this means for a house, like somebody wants one, not a storage trailer container business. And I agree that, this could be construed somewhat as a mismatch, but for the sake of remaining consistent, this is the way we've done it. It's the way it was recently handled with Tilton Trailer on the other side of town. So
Okay.
this is the way we're going to stick with for now.
Okay.
How many, say the lot is full, how many are we talking about here at this lot? The capacity, I guess. is
So
right.
it's 120 spaces, so the maximum would be 240 spaces. There's also, this is a fairly kind of an open field area there. There is landscaping proposed along the top of the berm here to kind of help, shield that a little bit along here.
On the, I'll say on the top side, I don't know what compass direction, is it north?
It's east. if you
The
will.
northeast side, that's naturally shaded already. Thank you.
It's all, right, wooded, forested. Yep.
Okay. Would the intent be to completely shield it from the road, or just provide some aesthetically pleasing plantings?
I would say that there's a, just looking at this, there's a fair amount of plantings there. I would say, not entire shielding. I think it's more of a, as you said, probably aesthetically pleasing plantings. As the trees grow, they're gonna grow and get thicker. Obviously, it is a business as well, they're gonna wanna
Visibility.
some visibility, if,
I'm sure signage will do that. Yeah.
right, so.
I found it right away. Being in my box.
Yeah.
Bang right
Yeah.
outside. Know
Is there
exactly
gonna
where
be
it
a
is.
sign and that has to go in front of planning? There's gonna be a
Right.
sign?
Sign,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So other than that, everything's, pretty much staying the same, as far as the utilization of the site. It's in the existing area. And the only additional is this infiltration basin, in the back.
What is the weight limit for each one?
10,000 pounds.
So double stacked, it's 20,000 pounds.
Right.
Of 200.
Typically, we tell the customer, if you call us, we say put 5,000 in it, because nobody really knows how much weight they have. My lift system will carry, well, the truck will carry 10,000 pounds, actually 12. So we try to tell everyone 5, and then it holds 10.
But that's of a 20-foot.
Correct.
And what about the smaller
The
units?
same way, it'll hold the same amount of weight. The problem is you can't fit that much weight into that size unit.
So they
So
still
unless you-
can hold
unless
that.
you-
Fill it with
Unless you
lead,
fill it
yeah, you
with bricks,
could.
yeah.
A bunch of BBs maybe,
Okay.
so. I mean, you could.
It was 4,000.
Well, then we wouldn't be, when we go pick the box up on the site, we would never be able to pick it up.
Okay,
So it'd be staying at their residence or business
right,
location.
okay. And there's the 3 sizes, the 8, the 16, and the 20.
Correct.
Is there a certain side that you are gonna have the 20-foot on, or is this all just gonna kind of be mixed and mingled?
The center aisles here are basically designed for the smaller ones, the 16s. And of course, you can put 2 8s, in a thing for a
Okay.
16. To allow for the access here, the side ones will be for the 20 access. And this hatched area here is basically indicating this darker is the size of the box, and this lighter hatch is basically the truck and the room the truck needs to basically load that and store it. So there's a flow pattern here, obviously, that, who's ever operating it, it's not random, you don't have someone parking their own rig or anything, so.
And in theory, the public access would probably be wherever staging area is, and they wouldn't be accessing all the facilities, is that right?
Correct.
That's my understanding, yep.
Pretty simple.
Yep.
I think so. If there's any questions, I can answer questions, or we can go over the criteria real quick.
Yep, I guess so.
So this is a special exception, and the number one criteria is that the specific site is appropriate location for such a use. For several reasons, it's appropriate.
I'm sorry, can you hold on one moment?
Yeah, I'm sorry, she's
I'm sorry.
going
Would you like to
between
open-
meetings here, if you could, give her a chance.
Absolutely. Does anybody
Sorry.
have any questions or comments?
Catherine Dawson, I'm the butter to the east. Actually, the other side of the road a little bit.
Okay.
The existing area, you're going to, did I hear pave or gravel?
Yes, paid.
Paved. How close is that paved area to the abutting line?
The setback is 20 feet, and it's about 20 feet.
Okay. And you're proposing drainage in that 20 feet?
Correct.
Okay.
That was easy, Catherine.
Savoring the information to use for later.
Oh, for next week?
Thank you. I'm gonna go get some commissioner.
Hopefully it'll be someone else.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Are there any more questions or statements? No, you're just gonna hang out with us? Huh? Okay.
Glad to see it go bye-bye.
Okay.
The site is appropriate for some obvious reasons. It's a commercial business in a commercial zone. There's easy access to the highway, deliveries and such. There's good visibility. Property is basically already kind of pre-prepped for this type of use. The gravel is there. There's very little grading that has to be done, very little manipulation. It's certainly appropriate for that use. Number 2, no factual evidence is found that the property values in the district will be reduced due to an incompatible land use as we're proposing. It is a commercial use in the resort commercial district, so it's a same use basically. The abutting properties are, I don't know if this was a garage before, and I don't know if this is a
That's also, this is,
repair area, okay.
that's Captain Dawson's property too.
Yes.
Okay.
That's her house.
Which one?
They own
Which one is
almost
hers?
that whole road
Yeah.
over there.
No, she abuts the floor show.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, she
that's
does.
not hers, it's the house next to it, okay.
Yeah.
So it's a commercial use. Obviously, everybody's seen the My Boxes. I mean, they're a pretty clean-cut product, you know. It's not something where you have a whole bunch of dumpsters or something piled
Do
up
they
there
all say
that
My Box
nobody
on
wants
them?
to see.
What's that?
Do they all
They
say
do.
My Box on them?
Yes.
They're advertising boxes. By design.
And again, any type of, I mean, most types of development, basically new development, we tend to see an increase in property values. So as far as, rather than detract from other property values, I think there's an incentive when property gets developed and there's active commercial business. It helps the economy, it helps the town overall. Number 3, there is no valid objection from the abutters based on demonstrable fact. I believe there's no.
Nope. She left.
She left.
Yeah, no opposition from abutters. On to number 4. No nuisance or hazard is involved. They're basically the storage units. There's limits to what can be stored in them. There's no hazardous chemicals. I believe the contract states that nothing illegal, hazardous, or anything can be stored in those. And it's a low use. So as far as pedestrians and customers, whatever, it's not like there's unrestricted access where you have people coming
just the operator storing the facilities. So the traffic is pretty limited. It's one truck, you know, just
Maybe
proposing
two
a-
in the future,
Right,
hopefully,
so,
if you want one.
right.
So you don't have, it's not
I have a
gated,
question.
protection.
Where do the people that are coming into that facility, there a special parking space for them?
There are 2 spaces as required by the ordinance,
Okay.
right up here next to the office.
So they can't go down and drive through and park and open up their units and take whatever they need?
Not without permission and
Okay.
proper, no. It's not like a
Storage
storage,
facility,
right,
okay.
where
All
they
right.
have the access. So it would basically be chaperoned, if you will.
What's to prevent it?
The person is sitting there.
But after hours, right?
After hours. I
They
mean,
made a
well,
steal, right?
Yeah, I mean, right.
Well,
They'd have to be a
Early lunch.
motivated individual.
Right.
Well, I mean, there's not, I mean, it's not a gate or
I don't know if
anything,
Yeah.
right? It's,
Is it a private lock on the?
There is private laws on it,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So they could get in there, but they would be in violation of their contract, and it's
So there will be
kind
no
of
gate,
enforcement.
no access, it's just, okay.
It's
I mean,
designed for
you're gonna
trailer
have
storage,
some
not
big
public
ones that try to
access.
get in there and steal something.
why not?
Yeah.
That's not our problem, that's the planning.
Number 5, adequate and appropriate facilities will be provided for the proper operation of the proposed use. We're proposing a well here to service the office building,
I'm sorry, where's it going?
right here. It can go just about anywhere, but right now it's proposed in this location here. And the septic basically to service that as well. So the only restrictions really is that the well can't be within 75 feet of the septic systems, and that's pretty much it, so. So those services will be provided, obviously there's electricity, overhead electric, and natural gas. And number 6, kind of already addressed that, there's adequate area for safe and sanitary sewage disposal. There's over 5 acres here, this area up in here is all well-drained soils, and the area provided is right here for the septic disposal. No issues there.
Any more questions, comments, concerns?
All right, just out of curiosity, where's the septic going?
Right behind the,
And then the well will be on the other side.
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, the well's gonna be 75.
5 feet, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that not on your plan?
And what about the,
Oh,
go ahead, Mr. Schneider.
This has been
My concern is
updated.
just the wetlands that
It's
are
3
down
days
there.
between
Yeah.
that one.
So I think DES is gonna deal with all that.
The buffer setback is fine, you know?
Mhm. And is that from, my question, I guess, is the wetlands that are down
Yep.
where your no, it comes all the way down?
It starts here.
Yep.
Coming out of a culvert.
And
it
then
runs
goes all the way down and
here,
around.
and it exits through another culvert here underneath the, it's actually right here, I think.
And your well, your septic
They're
is far enough
rerouting
away.
that water.
And you can do that?
Well, we're not changing anything here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That wetland stays untouched.
Mhm.
Yep.
And it's far enough back from, and I assume DES will be in there to,
They don't,
Or with
They're
no,
not involved in it at all.
right, unless we were crossing the wetlands or impacting it, then the Wetlands Bureau wouldn't be involved. We have to be, these types of wetlands, open surface water is 75 feet from septic systems, we're well beyond that. And there's nothing up in here, any wetlands up in here or over the street, so, yep, we're not encroaching on any of that.
all right, thank you. So do we have any concerns?
I don't.
No questions? We're good? So we will not be voting on all 5, we're just going to vote all in general?
Something you did last time, that I think was very effective, was you just sort of went around the table and confirmed that each of you, or stated how you felt whether the criteria had been met. It was quick, I think some people just said, I think all the criteria have been met.
Yep, so if you want to quickly review those.
For the record.
And you said that thing.
Thank you, sir.
That's right.
That's right. So, we'll start with Mary Ann.
I believe all the criteria have been met.
And Nick?
Are you in for another spot?
I am. You feel that all five have been met? Okay, and Tim?
I do feel that all 5 criteria.
It's actually 6.
6, I'm sorry.
It's 5 on variance.
Oh.
Oh.
Technicalities, sorry. Do I need to go back around again?
Oh,
All right, thank you, sir.
All the criteria.
All,
I didn't
all
even
of them in
notice.
general, I did. And Olivia? I do. Okay, and myself as well.
Make a motion that we grant the special exception to allow MI Fox to move ahead to the planning board.
Okay, 1706. Anyone second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And all opposed? Oh, okay, I was like, what? You can't do that twice. All
I would not do that.
right, thank you, gentlemen.
No, I was looking for that.
Now you have to belly up, Joe.
Yeah, I'm all over it.
Yeah, I know.
You're right.
All right, guys, thanks.
How you doing? The other guy that's buying, huh?
Yeah,
no.
Great
to meet you. There's a lot of audio around town, actually.
Really? It's not.
So do I officially say?
So I have to recuse
Oh, it's your own
myself.
decision,
Okay.
yeah, it's their own decision, yeah.
So are you gonna join us now? Because we do need you.
Oh, Joe's not, isn't Joe here?
We need 2 of you.
We need
Oh.
2 of you.
Yeah.
Oh,
So the next case is 1704, which would be my case, so at this time I need to recuse myself from this. 1704. So you need to recuse yourself because you are related and you live there.
I also recuse myself because that's my mom.
That's that.
Okay,
Because you have 2
alternate.
alternates right here.
right, okay.
So I was just hanging out here because it's fun. Well, yeah.
All right, with Christine leaving or recusing herself, I guess I get to
You get
walk,
to do it.
I get to walk through this one. It's 1704, Christine Coletti is requesting a special exemption for the use of equestrians, which horses. So, would you like to speak?
No, I don't like this side, to be honest with you. It's a little nerve-wracking over here. So, hello, my name is Christine, and I live at 141 Clark Road here in Tilton. Recently bought the property in September with the hopes that I could bring my horses up here. At current, we have 2, with one being bred this year and one being bred next year. I have a total of 6.08 acres, which the house is approximately on 1 acre.
How many acres you got?
6.08. The weight's important.
Yes.
So facts on, we're gonna measure.
Can I start off with a question, Chairman, or are you still presenting? I'm sorry.
Do you have a,
Depends on your question.
are you done presenting?
That's fine.
sorry, I didn't
You
know.
really interrupted.
Um,
Go ahead.
What's up?
Where are the horse is gonna sleep, in the barn?
Okay.
Just wanna make sure.
No, they're not coming in my garage.
We're gonna bring them in. So there's,
There is a barn on the property.
with facilities for horses.
I have to put stalls in. I'm going to, the structure in itself is gonna, be upgraded.
Okay, and the fenced fields they're not currently fenced?
They're not currently fenced at this time.
Okay.
Are they gonna be electrified?
They're gonna be wood with electric on the inside,
Okay.
so it will be double.
All right, you wanna continue with your presentation?
Yeah. Not much really to say. They're just, for reading and pleasure. My daughter, not this one, I have a daughter, and I ride, she shows. It was the intent to bring them up here, and that's why I chose this property.
Looks like a nice place for it.
Yeah. How many horses do you intend to have?
4 with babies, that would be inclusive. And sometimes when you have the weaning process, if there's only one, usually get something smaller, kind of babysit so that the mom and baby can get well. That's why I went with up to 5. It's usually an acre per horse with proper rotation of land so that I don't have just dirt and that they can move around and I clean up my fields and there's enough grass to keep everybody happy.
So the intent is 1 acre per horse of pasture?
Pasture or what we do in the winter. If your fields are wet, if they are not grown enough so that it's a management issue, so that we'll have smaller paddocks so that those can become dirt, those can be the ones that they ruin, it's kind of like an alternative.
Right.
But the rest, that big field, is what I want to be kept open.
Okay.
So they'll be limited in that time that they can be out there during the day. There's also a limited time for season, like when you put them out in the spring, they would be in the separate small paddocks for that.
So is this for business or
No,
just personal?
Just personal.
Anybody else like to speak to it?
I don't think, no. No, she's a very smart girl sometimes.
Sometimes.
Can we know
Okay,
that? Is
well,
that-
I have to ask.
Still recording? Like.
Will you have borders?
No. Good question, I'm impressed.
Yep,
Just me.
yep. Any
Only
other?
for- It's all for personal use, resources.
Yeah. Unless you'd like to come and visit them. You can ride, but I would
I'll
not
bring
be
my
charged.
grandchildren.
Oh, my God, absolutely.
All 11 of them.
Oh, dear Lord. Yeah.
So do we have, are you done?
I think so. It's very simple.
Right, is there any discussion?
That's not really too much to discuss.
Well,
Horses and.
Okay. Wait.
my only concern is the house across the street. I'm thinking of order.
What, we have a house across the street?
Well, it's like.
Yes, there is. There's a
Oh,
small
it's kind of
house
like
across the
diagonal.
street.
Okay, the one up further.
Right.
Well,
across
it
the
would
street.
be, if you figure that we're prevailing west to east winds, that would be somewhat downwind of that, and I have to think of that for the,
Yeah.
so there's a.
So,
Yeah,
So
there's a house
there's
right
no
here.
abutters here, though,
There's a
right?
house right here.
I don't know, yeah, it looks, I actually, well,
oh, this is, yeah, that's the dumping lot, we call it, and then there's a house here.
your auto
So
dealership
this
there?
here, yeah, it's
Yes.
from a hundred
Yeah.
trees.
Your auto dealership is
It's
pretty
all
close.
tall trees,
Yeah.
it's blocked in, the smell, odors, I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, I'm just saying about the odors.
We're talking about rural New Hampshire here.
So the whole property is, what would be?
It's 6.08.
6.08.
The house is 1.
Approximately one.
Land.
Well, it's the house,
How big, 6
there's
acres.
the
Wasn't
house,
until this.
the barn's in here, and then the driveway comes up and around.
I'm just thinking about this guy
This
here,
house here.
R26.
These, the field, like I said, would be maintained on a regular basis, which everything is cleaned up, I do not leave it. Manure pile will be way up in the back here, which is either composted or every 30 days it's removed.
Where's the manure pile?
Up in the
It
back
has to be
here.
100 feet from any property boundary. I'll tell you
Mine
that.
would be the only one.
You mean property boundary or
Right,
dwelling?
so it has to be 100
Feet.
feet
From any of those orange
from
lines.
any of these orange lines.
Yeah.
Well, that'll be between them and the planning board, right?
Do they go?
No, this won't go before the plan. That's I mean, that's just something she's gonna have to do, yeah.
Well, that would be code enforcement then.
Yeah, right, but I think it's appropriate for you guys to make sure that she can do that.
Can do,
Can store her manure 100 feet from a property line, because that's a zoning
Can you put
requirement.
conditions on her approval?
Sure, yeah, you could say manure, I think that was done with horses on that side of town a couple of years ago. It was sort of solidified that the manure was gonna be.
She
how
would
the
have
manure
to
would be
comply
done.
with all applicable zoning
Yeah.
and animal.
Which she would anyway,
ordinance. She
you
would
know.
have
If you
to
did, if you
anyway.
don't put it as a condition, it's still gonna be a requirement.
That's right. She's
It just
gotta
could
do what
create
she's gotta do.
create a bad situation where, you know, if she
Yeah.
bought 6 horses and suddenly discovered she couldn't put it, that's why I'm bringing it.
I spoke with one
I know
of
where you
the,
live, I would bring it to your house.
That's fine, I'll use it.
I was gonna say,
Garden.
you could get rid of that manure, no doubt.
Oh, yeah.
I spoke with
Is
one
it
of the
organic?
abutters who was
It's
totally in
a, yeah,
favor of
Yeah,
no, I do
yeah.
it, yeah.
Oh, I
Goes
did,
in one,
actually, I
out the other,
can,
it's
yeah.
all organic.
You could probably sell that manure.
so,
No, that would be a pain, you want it, come
Really?
get it.
Chairman, you asked, or somebody asked if there were abutters here. It looks as though there aren't, but Mr. Jessamine mentioned that he spoke with an abutter who was totally in favor of it, and I can
Chuck
also
Drew.
say that.
Chuck Drew.
Who's that?
He
I've
owns,
never met
he owns the auto facility.
Camaro Heaven. that people
That's
come to my
correct.
house.
And then his house is down toward yours, between your house and Camaro Heaven. So he's totally good to go.
Is that his house right
No.
there?
Where's
That's
he?
Camaro Heaven.
No, his house is back.
That's his house with the pool.
Oh, okay. He's
This is,
behind.
yeah, this is his house.
Okay.
Well, no, this doesn't look like it makes sense to me.
And,
Okay.
and I got a call from an abutter by the last name Robichaud,
Yeah.
and that abutter
This is his
indicated
entire
not having
house right
objections.
okay,
Because Camaro Heaven is
No, I
over
do.
here.
okay,
I don't, but they said they're all in favor of it, so.
okay, so,
So we do the criteria?
special,
Do we have to
yeah,
do
do we have to
that?
do the criteria for this
It's
one?
pretty short, sweet, isn't it?
For the record.
For the record.
Yeah, you should.
Okay. Okay, so for the record, we're just gonna go through the criteria.
But it's a special exception, not a variance.
Right,
Well,
we did
okay.
it on the last one though.
Okay.
That's the only reason why.
I just saw a variance on your piece of paper, I wanted to make sure you weren't using a variance.
But doesn't speak up, she said in her thing it was every 30 days, and we were moving here, so they're 45.
45.
I would change it to 30 or 45, whatever you people would prefer.
Is there a current
Usually it's
zoning
30.
regulation?
No, but I'm just saying,
You aren't proposing to go out in that field and shovel up every horse?
oh, there's probably some guy that comes by.
I
Really?
do,
30
absolutely.
days, okay.
She's out at like 5 and 6 a.m., guys, like if you think
In the-
she's
in the
playing.
mor-
Yeah, in the morning I go out and feed and take care, in the afternoons. Winter does get a little difficult because by the time I get home it's dark, so weekends I'm out there.
Well, in the barn, I understand
No,
this,
out
but in the
In
field.
the field, absolutely. It will burn, it's management, it will burn the grass, it will turn to weeds.
No, that's true.
Yeah. So it either gets.
I
it
grew up in
gets
and
raked,
around
It gets
stuff like that,
raked so that
never
it
heard of it,
doesn't
so,
burn.
okay.
Okay,
gonna be
all right,
shocked
let's
to
move
I
on.
personally feel all
I worked
criteria
at a
have been
hospital.
met.
Okay, all right.
I personally believe that, what Joe said.
All the criteria have
But
been
I
met.
do have conditions.
That's all right, we'll do that in a second, all right.
Actually, I do have, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I have one more question that I think should come before this.
Okay,
I apologize. The requirement that there be an acre for each horse, is that an acre of field for each
It's an
horse?
acre.
No, you don't wanna use the terminology field.
Okay,
In any time, in any of the horses or properties that I've had, it was an acre per horse, whether you had buildings on it, whether you had manure piles, fields, woods, didn't matter, it's an acre per horse. Usually, and this was in Massachusetts, so anything over 5 acres, you could have, there was no limit
Okay.
to your horses, but I don't want that. I don't want my fields to turn to dry dirt lots.
right.
So,
That was my concern, that if the idea was you needed an acre of sort of horse space for every horse. It looks like more you have like 1 or 2 acres of actual horse space, but you know, your professional opinion is that this will be sufficient. There won't be any problems.
Yes, and if it's not, then, you know, I would make that choice not to bring that many horses there.
Thank you.
The New Hampshire, University of New Hampshire Cooperative Extension has housing and space guidelines for livestock.
Yeah.
And what they say is, for horses, 1 to 2 acres of pasture per animal. These are only guidelines, these are not standards, rules, or regulations.
Right.
It's just a guideline. And then it also talks about exercise, size of exercise yards and things like that. And then if feed is provided, let's say, you will not need a pasture as long as you provide adequate purchased feed. So again, these are just guidelines. So 1 acre per animal is
Adequate.
is the standard. My wife's a horse nut, so yeah, that's the standard. 1 acre of land per animal.
Yeah. I do have a tent that I got from Tractor Supply that I keep 200 bales of hay in. There's an old driveway that went up to the property and back that I keep that on. I wouldn't put it in my barn where my horses are if there's any fire issues. You know, I don't keep my hay in with my horses, they're separate. And as far as riding facilities, we have 70 acres. Well, there's 60 acres behind us and then another 70 behind that, and it goes to the high tension lines.
Yeah, that's plenty of land.
Yeah.
Have you talked to the people back in there, if you can ride on it? I mean, I don't know who owns
No,
it.
Brian is next door.
Okay.
That's, yeah, we talked briefly about it when I first moved in, but not since.
Do you feel the criteria have been met?
Yes, I do.
Okay, how will you?
Yes, I do.
Okay, I also feel the criteria have been met. Okay, so. You have conditions. So
I just
let's
was-
talk, let's hear.
I just wanna make sure it's not used for commercial purposes unless they go before, planning.
You said you have 2?
I think I forgot the other ones because that was really important.
Anything else? Anybody else? Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion to approve planning board, zoning board case
1704.
1704 with the following condition that it not be used for commercial purposes unless they present before the planning board.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Opposed? Congratulations.
And you are unrecused.
You are now unrecused.
Where are the horses now?
Excellent, I'm boarding in Belmont.
Oh.
Not at Robital's place, right? Mark Robital?
No. No. Don't tell me,
Should we
who
play
are
the-
you?
We haven't adjourned yet, have we?
You bought the house that I wanted.
Oh, we got one more,
Oh,
quick.
we have one more
Quick,
thing.
quick.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, these are the zoning board rules of procedure. Could you please, guys, just pass these around? And then here's, actually, let me take one.
I'm sorry.
And then here's an email from an attorney with a
Yep.
recommendation
Is that
for
one of those
a revision.
Was this based on 1702, I think it was?
No, it's just a result of actually this attorney's work, well, this, you know him. No, it's not, I'll just put it that way.
Okay, all right.
Is
Um,
that the email?
It's something else.
This is the,
Oh, okay.
And so the rules of procedure don't establish a time frame, a sort of a clock for by when you have when someone has to appeal a decision to the zoning board. It's sort of, I always thought it was 30 days. It's written on different documents. I've always told people you have 30 days. Turns out it's not properly codified. So we need to take care of that. I asked that, I said, this just came up the other couple days ago. I said, I've already posted the notice of the meeting, because with planning board, you have to put in the notice what your, like zoning amendments, you have to put in the notice what they're gonna be. And he said, no, I'll read. There's no requirement in statute or in the rules that a proposed amendment to the board's rules be published in the newspaper, be posted in any public place, or even be put on the board's agenda. What they have to do per the board's amendment procedure is to read the amendment at 2 successive meetings prior to the vote, at the 3rd successive meeting to adopt the amendment. So basically, an amendment to these rules has to be read potentially tonight, again at our next meeting, and then the meeting after that, a vote can be taken to adopt that an amendment. So I propose tonight that this board insert into the rules of procedure that this language, appeals to the board as authorized by RSA 674-33 shall be taken within 30 days of the decision appealed from and not thereafter.
Is there a subsection on 33, or does it matter? Because it's not in here, I guess.
If there were, let's say, you said, I want you to do like it says in the encyclopedia, and then someone said, or someone else said page 72 of the encyclopedia. Well, as long as you said the encyclopedia, you're covered, so probably it's fine. I mean, and this was suggested by our attorney, so
okay.
I didn't honestly go looking into it. I trust him, so.
Let's hope so.
But I can look into that if you wish.
Nope,
And,
as long as.
he didn't, again, his email doesn't say whether you guys have to actually vote on it tonight, but I guess it might be constructive to just see if there's general consensus that this is something that should be added.
I think there should be a time limit.
If it's not clear, it should be clear.
Right. And I think that there should be, and I always thought it was 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
So, but there, I don't know who, John said that usually it's 20. But if we have one meeting and not at a next, we don't have a meeting the next month.
Who said it's usually 20?
John put in here, 30 days is usual, some towns have 20.
Yes,
Or
30
days
days.
is usual, sorry.
Yeah.
So what happens if we don't have a meeting the next month? We have to,
They have to get it to you. They have to get it to me, actually.
okay.
Yeah.
So they have 30 days to start the appeal process.
Yeah, and then there are, I think once an appeal is submitted, the board has to act on it within 30 days. But that is rare, that it happens, that, there's a meeting. The other thing you have to remember is these aren't appeals to your decisions oftentimes. These are appeals to planning board decisions or decisions by an administrative official or something like that. So it's not always going to line up.
Okay.
It could line up in all sorts of ways. And there may be a time where we have to call a special meeting to meet the 30-day requirement on something. We'll
Have it anyways,
deal with
okay.
it as
Yeah.
it comes.
But we have to do the 3 meetings in order to adopt this, is what he's saying.
Yeah, it has to be, what did he say again? You have to do per the board's amendment procedures, to read the amendment at 2 successive meetings prior to the vote at the 3rd successive meeting to adopt the amendment.
Okay.
So as long as everyone's seemingly on board, I think we can call this our first reading of it.
Okay.
And we got the ball rolling, then that's good. I know you guys want to leave. The other thing, since we're at it, and we've got these, there's page 2. Regular meetings shall be held at Tilton Town Hall at 7:30 p.m. on the 3rd Tuesday of each month. It's been, I've been here 3 years, we've been 6 p.m. ever since then. So I'm proposing that we change that to 6 p.m. This will be the first reading of that, as long as everyone's on board with that.
Yes.
And then records, so page 3, the records of the board shall be kept by the clerk secretary, blah, 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 blah. 1 and 2, 1 and 2 says final written decisions will be placed on file and available for public inspections within 72 hours. Then there's this talk in 2 about 144 hours of the public hearing. State statute sets both of those simply at 5 days. And so it might be my preference, and this is a little bit selfish because I'm the one who's, kind of on the line for meeting these
You're the
time
most
frames.
impacted.
Yeah, I would like to see it in line with state statute and have both of those simply be
Keep it
five
easy.
business
Absolutely.
days.
Right.
Yeah.
Keep it easy.
Alright.
All right, good. 44 hours.
No, we wanted 24.
17 minutes.
Well, you're 143.
Just get it done by the time everything's over, please.
Yeah,
So
alright.
that we can have it and just go home.
Okay.
Just do that.
Right.
All right, that sounds good. So, is there anything else on the agenda? Are we good? Meeting
Good.
adjourned? Thank you very much for coming in, we greatly
Sorry,
appreciate it.
sorry I'm late.
I should do a motion to adjourn, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Would somebody like to do a motion to adjourn?
I motion that we adjourn.
Hi, second.
Third?
Third, fourth,
With your feet.
all in favor?
All in favor?
Yeah, all in favor? Have a good evening. Yes.
144 hours is 6 days.
No, it's 4 business days. It winds up being 4 business days.
Oh, so who are you?
144 divided by 24 is 6.
But there's 2 weekend days in there.
Well, then that would still be
Doesn't matter,
fine.
because it's like on the other one, 30 days, there's still weekends in there. It's 30
You don't work weekends?
If you do 5, if you go
I
one,
would call
if I do.
24. Really?
it's-
I'm just saying,
I
it's
know.
6 days.
I'm a purchasing agent.
It's
5
the
days
math
work.
comes out 6 regular days, but when you stick your weekends in there, it actually winds up being more than 5 days. Or no,
It
excuse
could,
me.
it could, depending on when you buy it.
That's right, if my email was on.
You could.
That's right.
Wait, what are you saying? 144 is?
Hours.
I'm going.
It's 6 days.
I'm tired, yeah.
Okay.
Do we have a meeting?
Because I just divided 144 by 24.
I'm on planning board the other one.
Yeah, I know it.
So I just come here.
No, well, the first time we went.
Except for the first and the 5th. There's a 5th Tuesday.
So it doesn't make any difference. I was just curious if that was going to.
Bye, thank you.
Bye-bye. See you later,
Yeah,
Doug.
right.
Thank you very much.
Like a week, and I started, that's my
I'm
husband.
good. I'm going to see the Red Sox play the Yankees in early August. And I'm not sure about, I know how to get to Fenway Park, but
Really?
parking, I haven't been to a game since I was a kid.
Yep, I bet. That's my baby work.
Friday?
Wouldn't fit. There's not a little man back there.
Now,
No, and
is
it's
there,
funny
is there a
because
place
there's
where you
another
can get
section
the subway, a
back
train,
here.
a bus, and something, it's a 7:05 game, so
Well, yeah, you can,